Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm actually standing now between you here and lunch. So we decided to start a bit earlier, that you can get your lunch earlier, you can extend your lunch break. But in between, I would like to talk a bit about DeFi and how local stable assets can actually enable a more user-centric, decentralized financial system. I'm working on Mento. Mento is an Esperanto word for mint, so it's a currency mint, and it enables real-world use cases of digital assets. And we focus on local stablecoins, and today I want to talk a bit about why local stablecoins are so important to get more end users into DeFi in the end. First, very short about Mento, so you can follow us here if you want. Mento is a platform to launch and operate local stable assets on Celo. Celo is a layer 1 that just announced that it moves back to Ethereum as a layer 2 onto Ethereum, and Mento Labs as a company wants to enable local stable currencies on Ethereum and on Celo, and also enable partners in every country of the world to launch their own stable assets. So there is now actually more and more regulation for everything that we are building around the world. There's more and more infrastructure. We today heard from many great projects what they are building. We heard from new wallets, from more infrastructure around account abstraction and so on. But still, the numbers of people that actually use DeFi is relatively low. It's still in bear. It's also actually, over the last few months, still declining. Obviously, that has to do with like crypto prices declining, but still, also if you look at user numbers, they are still relatively low. We, as an industry so far, actually didn't make it to build in a way that end users in every country of the world actually want to use what we are building. Why is that? Why are not more people using DeFi for their daily financial needs? And as a reminder, I'm sure everyone here knows, but in the end, DeFi, decentralized finance, we also heard it in one of the talks below, is a peer-to-peer financial services, allowing people to lend, to borrow, to send remittances, to get a loan for their business, to get a loan for a car. This, in the end, all without any centralized intermediary. And if we here in this room, for example, for ourselves would answer the question, how many of you actually, for example, today, when they bought a coffee, how many of you did use stablecoins? The number is probably relatively low, even in this room. If we, for example, in this room ask how many people of you got a microloan using DeFi, to, for example, buy a beer, most of you probably actually used a credit card and not some DeFi system. So even in this room where a lot of builders sit from this industry, not many people are actually using this for real-world use cases. In other countries and in other industries and with other, in different communities, the number is probably even lower. So nobody for real-world use cases is using actually what we are building. And if we remind ourselves what are actually the countries where what we are building is needed most, I've here brought an example. In Ghana, for example, just 1/3 of the population actually has a bank account. Even less people in Ghana have access to a credit card, but most of the people in Ghana actually have access to a mobile phone. And I think these exactly are the countries we're building for. And so far, we actually didn't make it into these countries and give people a better access to DeFi or to a financial system, but this is actually a country where we're building for. Here, if I want to buy a beer, I use my credit card, I can use my phone, I can pay however, but in many other countries this is not the case. And these are actually the countries we are building for, and I think at some point along the way when building like everything we build, maybe we sometimes lose focus on these countries where actually what we are building can make a difference. And actually prices for remittances to these countries are also complete bullshit. I'm from Germany, so if you look at remittances prices from Germany to Ghana, TransferWise is actually not offering that service. WorldRemit is charging 17.5%, Western Union 21%, Postbank 22%. So if you send 100 euros, you have to pay 22 euros in fees for remittances, which is completely bullshit. And even more, like, it takes a lot of time until your remittances actually arrive. People then on the ground have to find, for example, a Western Union store. So the user experience is shit, the prices are shit. These are actually the countries where we could like make a big difference with what we are building. But to actually make this difference, there's a lot of things we need. And today in the previous talks, we heard many of these things, that we, for example, need scalable chains that can actually handle a lot of transactions. And over the past years, I think we made a lot of improvements here. We also need identity solutions. In many countries, it's, especially for people who are not experts in blockchain, it's hard to find other users via a hexadecimal key. They want to have an identity solution for sending other users money, for example. We need cheap gas fees. We need the opportunity to either pay gas fees in the same currency as I'm doing the transaction in stable coins, or maybe have gas-less solutions. We today also heard about that. But these are all things what we need. We also need easy-to-use wallets. We need cheap native on- and off-ramps in every country, something all the wallets are struggling with to actually get to. And we need local currencies. And today I want to talk a few more minutes about why actually local currencies are also important. Why not only dollar-based stable coins are a solution for every country in the world. And we also need transparent currencies, because we cannot assume that, like in every country, people will just trust what we are building. Maybe they want to look deeper into it, and therefore it has to be transparent. When we look at a few of these things on that list, for example, for identity, there are actually already solutions. And here I have, I brought an example from the Cello ecosystem, Social Connect, which is a nice solution for the identity problem. On Cello, you can link a hash of your phone number to a public wallet key, which is nice because you still on-chain keep your privacy. It's just a hash of your phone number. But it's also nice because in wallets, you can find other users just via their phone number. And in many countries, especially the countries I mentioned in the beginning, for example, in Ghana or in Nigeria, many people have access to a phone. So the phone number is actually a good identifier. It's really, really cool that, for example, in wallets that use Social Connect, you can use actually the phone book and see who in your phone book also uses a wallet, and you can send them money. So a phone number is actually a great social identifier. There are other solutions that allow you to link your email address or your Twitter account or anything to a public wallet key, but actually we got much better on the identity solution, and I'm very happy that this exists. For cheap on and off ramps, we obviously have that problem, especially when we want to go in many different countries around the world. Every wallet in every country has to talk to every on and off ramp in every country to get like a good deal, to get cheap on and off ramping. And this is like a task which is horrible, because there's a lot of coordination, a lot of conversations and negotiations have to happen. So what we would need actually to make this much easier is a standard, a technological standard, how a wallet and an off-ramp can actually integrate with each other. In the Cello ecosystem, we've built an open source standard. It's called Fiat Connect. Everyone can use it. Everyone in Ethereum can use it. Every wallet, every every on and off ramp, and it allows you to basically have a technological standard how the on ramp and the wallet can talk to each other. And I think having that standard gives a big advantage already, because it allows for more on and off ramps, and therefore it also allows for competitive prices, because on and off ramping is still super expensive. And there are different wallets, and we actually today in this room already heard from one wallet in the Celo ecosystem that make the user experience much easier. So Valora is one example that allows you to connect with your phone number and to send money to anyone where you know the phone number very easily, very fast, and uses, for example, Social Connect, uses Fiat Connect for on and off ramps, and therefore on this side we got much better. In Africa, for example, currently there's also not only Valora, there's also Opera MiniPay. It's the second wallet that is currently also rolling out across Africa together with Opera, and I think this is a nice opportunity for us as an industry, because Opera has a lot of distribution across Africa. It's a browser that is used with over 200 million people across Africa, and Opera is actively pushing this wallet out to everyone in Africa so that they are able to use in a very, very easy way stable coins on Celo or on Ethereum for their transactions. And I think this is nice because it actually solves now for the identity solution, it solves for easy wallets, it solves basically for cheaper on and off ramps, because if somebody like Opera that has a lot of distribution goes into that game, they can create competition among on and off ramps to make your life in these countries much easier. But why do we actually want to build local currencies? And many people actually tell me, hey, in the end, people, for example, in Nigeria, the Nigerian naira is heavily devaluating against the dollar. They actually only want access to a dollar stablecoin. They only want to use USDC, for example, because it has so much liquidity and it's a stable currency. That is true, but not for everything. People in these countries also maybe want to get a loan. Maybe they want to borrow, they want to lend, they want to engage in DeFi. And if you get a loan in a stable currency and your local currency is actually losing value against that stable coin, paying back that loan becomes much more expensive in future. And therefore, people actually want to have access to local currencies. Also vendors, if they would accept dollar-based stable coins, they will have an FX risk. They will have, if they are in a country with a volatile currency, they need to hedge that FX risk, and their costs, paying their vendors, paying for taxes and so on, will be in local currencies. So they need actually access to local currencies. And this is what we want to focus on at Mento. We want to basically provide an open platform that delivers stability smart contracts, that delivers oracles for every country in the world, so that people on the account can actually issue their own local currency in their country to cater these use cases. That people can, for example, if they want to save, maybe they go into a dollar stablecoin. But if they want to get a loan, maybe they want to do that in a stablecoin in their local currency. If they have to pay taxes, they probably need exposure to local currency. And this is what we're building. So far, Mento has a dollar, a euro, and a Brazilian real stablecoin. Those were the first three we launched. But now with this focus on Africa, together, for example, with Valora or with Opera MiniPay, we now want to launch more African currencies. We just next week are launching a West African franc, the CXOF, that's the West African franc. And next we are looking into a Nigerian naira and a Kenyan shilling. And then after the Kenyan shilling, we want to launch also a Ugandan shilling. We talk to projects that actually in Uganda want to settle between Kenya and Uganda. They actually want to have a stablecoin that follows a basket of different shillings, a Kenyan shilling and a Ugandan shilling, so that we, with this platform, can not only enable local stablecoins, but also enable stablecoins that follow, for example, a basket of currencies. And then next, we also want to go and issue, for example, a Korean won, a Philippine peso, maybe at some point also a Singaporean dollar. In Singapore, you now actually have a regulatory framework for stablecoins. So in the end, with this platform, we want to offer basically everyone the opportunity to launch their own stable assets. And if you're building in that area where you can use stable assets or stable coins in different currencies, we actually want to talk to you. So if you're building, for example, any solution in DeFi where you need FX forwards, FX futures, swaps, where you need anything where you need to have exposure to different currencies, we would like to talk to you, partner with you, build together with you. This is why we're here. So if you want, let's chat, let's reach out. Feel free to connect me, to send me a message. Always happy to chat. And I think it was super fast, but now you have lunch and the weather is nice outside. They already have beer outside, so I don't want to hold up you any longer. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I don't want to mind holding everybody for lunch, but I just had a few questions. The first one for how does CBDC enters into that pool? Is that complementary? Is that opposition? How do you see those two kind of world together?
It's a very good question. And actually, we try to work with governments now on this for a very long time. So we talk to different governments. The big governments actually look into like closed form solutions. We've talked also to smaller governments. So for example, in the Bahamas, we are trying to help to build the cent dollar. So we are trying to help to build these solutions. I think if we would see CBDCs in the future, that would be great if they would live on public networks. We could actually use these currencies also as collateral. So if you're having a central bank digital currency, then you could have a basket of central bank digital currency being a basket of collateral for local currencies. Because if that would live on chain, it would be transparent that the collateral is actually there. So I think this actually would help us. I also think that in the end, what we will see in future, the same as we have seen in the past, there's basically not one layer for everything, or there's basically also not one currency for everything. We will have a competition among different currencies. There's like users that want to use their local currency. For sure, if at some point in Europe we would really see a central bank digital currency, cool, why not? But it's still in Ghana, there's probably none. So it's cool that we could use a European CBDC as collateral if we then on-chain also issue a local currency there. So in the end, for us, I think CBDCs would actually broaden the range of available currencies, and that would be good.
Thank you. On your previous slide, where you had the map of the world, and as a company, I'm with Horizon Labs, and we're based in the US. I'm not sure if it's a glitch or not in the map, but it looks like there's a state in the middle. Can you explain what state is that and what's the situation?
That is a glitch. I think I painted that map like yesterday evening with a beer. So that was basically, I got impatient.
I thought there were some rules that I was missing about a particular state in the US. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
This is where the Amish live. There's no currency.
Okay, thank you. And just sorry, final question that I was going to ask you in private, but since I have the mic, the Libra currency, the original Facebook currency, was a pool, a basket of some of the world's biggest currency. Is that a model that you guys are trying to bring back?
So I think that was an idea that was good. Obviously, the execution was not. I think basically trying to roll this out as like a centralized company with brute force, obviously it was clear that regulators won't like the Libra solution. But in general, a global currency for specific use cases could have some economic advantages. So for example, for settlement, you could have you could see advantages with a global currency. If, for example, global carriers, telco providers need to settle among each other. And everyone who settles, because there's a lot of roaming charges when I travel from Germany with my phone to the US, and then Deutsche Telekom has to settle with T-Mobile in the US for my roaming charges, there's actually a need for something more efficient. And I think here, for example, a global currency could have many advantages. I don't think a global currency is actually something cool for end users, because if I would pay an Uber driver with a global currency, they still need to get gas in their local currency, and then they would have, again, an FX risk, and they therefore don't want to have that global currency. So I think, again, for different use cases, we'll see different currencies. Global currencies could be cool for settlement. Local currencies could be cool for payments and remittances. I think it always depends on the use case.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I arrived late. I don't know if you already talked about it. What would be the barrier of entry for a young group of developers to participate in the European pegged stablecoin market under MiCA? Capital requirements or regulatory requirements? How high will be the bar? Will be still accessible like we do now in DeFi, freely access this possibility, or how is the environment developing in this sense?
That's a good question, and I'm not a lawyer. I think I always have to say that in the beginning. I think the first barrier of entry will be to understand MiCA and what it actually means. That is probably the biggest barrier of entry. So the markets in crypto asset regulation will come into effect sometime next year. And it will have different categories for different stablecoins. There will be a category for e-money tokens, which are stablecoins that are following fiat currency and that are backed with fiat currency. There are asset reference tokens, which are currencies or stablecoins that follow, for example, a basket of different currencies or are backed by something else. And then there's a category other, and other then also covers everything like ETH, for example, that will be in that category other. So I think the first thing is, if you want to build a local European stablecoin, you need to figure out what will be the model you want to build out. Will it be backed by bank credit, and will it be like e-money? So you will be in that e-money category, and it will be much stricter than, for example, if you would be in this asset referenced token category. I think then the next hurdles are actually in the whole infrastructure that you need for an e-money token. You need a bank that works with you, and then like the most important thing is to basically show your users that you actually hold that collateral is not so easy. I mean, for example, Circle is trying to be very transparent in terms of what are the banks that are holding our collateral and what is the collateral. With Tether, you just don't know. And there are many things in between those different ways. And I think setting up that infrastructure, finding a bank, being very transparent, finding an auditor, and so on, this is probably the biggest barriers here.